Now if you could just make another Jak and Daxter game, that would be great.
And yet the only thing you'll do with it is just show us how long we've been waiting for a new game.
Please, no more nostalgia posts about Jak. Bring us a new game or...
It would be nice. Please be a new Jak and Daxter game. Please be a new Jak and Daxter game. Naughty Dog! Now, Naughty Dog's making a new game. I guess I hope that they're gonna bring back Jak and Daxter. I mean, they brought back Ratchet and Clank. Why wouldn't they bring back Jak and Daxter? So, maybe I'm just complaining, but I miss this game a lot. I mean, all of these games are great games. So let's go ahead and get into the story of it. If you've already played Jak and Daxter, then you know that this game cannot be replaced, but just hear me out. And for the people that haven't played this game yet, I'll tell you why you need to play this game. It all starts with the voice of an old boring sage.
I have spent my life searching for the answers that my father and my father's fathers failed to find. Who were the precursors? Why did they create the vast monoliths that litter our planet? How did they harness eco, the life energy of the world? What was their purpose, and why did they vanish? I have asked the plants, but they do not remember. The plants have asked the rocks, but the rocks do not recall. Even the rocks do not recall.
Let's mute that old man for a second and talk about the star of the game, Jak. Now, Jak, he was just too cool. Dare I say, ice cold. Walking through the village with those sweet steampunk glasses and that sick stylish Super Saiyan hair. He didn't need to hear a word Samo said. That town was his playground. He could do what he want. He didn't even need to talk. He invented silent protest before it was cool. Alongside his best friend Daxter, who aided in his rebellious ambition. Growing bored of old Samos's speeches.
The sage yaps on about the precursors that built this place all the time. Where did they go? Why did they build this crap?
These two set off to the one place they weren't supposed to go. Daxter, being the comedic relief of the game, was about to land the biggest joke ever by falling into a pool of dark eco. Luckily, he didn't die, but he lost his human body, becoming the big silly furball that we all know and love.
In my professional opinion, the change is an improvement.
The dynamic duo was officially born.
It looks like your partner's doing all the work.
Maybe it looks that way to the untrained eye. Been there long?
Now, the first Jak and Daxter was...
Good! So good!
That's it. That's all I gotta say. Are you smelling what I'm stepping in? Okay, maybe I'll paint a better picture. This game came out in 2001, back on the PS2, which was the talk of the school back in those days. Now, if you weren't playing on the PS2, then you probably had an Xbox and you were saying Xbox was better. And finding out that your best friend was playing on a different system than you
punk,
that was ultimate betrayal. Now, for me, my birthday was coming up, and I'll never forget my grandpa coming up to me and telling me those sweet words.
You can have whatever you want.
By golly, he took me up to that local Walmart and got me a PS2, and guess what game? If you thought Jak and Daxter... No, it wasn't Jak and Daxter. I didn't know about Jak and Daxter at the time. Actually, I got Star Wars and The Simpsons. At a time when platformers were big, this was a big action-adventure, open-world, collect-a-thon, full of everything kind of game that absolutely just nailed it on the head. Aside from being the perfect blend with a diverse world and originality, they loaded this bad boy up with superpowers. With Jak's ability to channel eco, his powers range from super speed, shooting fireballs, or super strength, depending on what color you picked up. You might as well call him Superman, except he can't fly. And if your legs got tired, then you could just hop on this giant parrot and ride it like a horse. Or how about this one? You like bikes? I like bikes, and this ain't no Kawasaki Ninja H2. This is a Zoomer. This sideways helicopter motorcycle hovering piece of machinery that Kira cooked up can withstand temperatures above 800 degrees.
Now that's hot.
That's hot.
Now, if that doesn't boil your blood, the boss fight should. These boss fights with their creative design didn't have a health bar, so you didn't know when you were gonna beat them. You just had to attack when you had the opportunity to. With each boss having their own attack style, you had to use their weakness against them, using different abilities that you picked up along the way. And don't even get me started on Gaul and Maya. This pair of dark eco junkie siblings made for perfect villains with an epic boss fight, with Gaul being obsessed with power and Maya being obsessed with trying to stay young and beautiful.
We've got big plans for you.
Have you two looked in the mirror lately?
Now that's just scraping the surface on this epic precursor tale. With Naughty Dog's audience growing and the gamer community leaving platformers behind, Jak had to adapt.
So get your cameras out now, folks!
Here comes the ready and not. Here comes the boys from the south. Here comes the ready and not. How you like me now? I say, here comes the ready and not. Here comes the boys from the south. Here comes the ready and not. How you like me now?
I'm just getting started.
This place has too much excitement. We need to move back to the country.
When Jak 2 came out, gamers were jumping on the bandwagon of more action-packed video games. Naughty Dog was gearing up for this by taking our sweet old boy Jak and blasting him into the future, landing into the new world of Haven City, giving him a warm welcome by knocking him out and locking him up for 2 years. Then, to make matters worse, they jacked him up with Dark Eco to change him forever, where we heard his first words.
I'm gonna kill Praxis!
Murder?
He wasn't a cool kid in town anymore, he was just straight bad. Our good boy Jak was dead, and the only thing that was standing there now was a guy with a tough attitude.
Well, my angry young friend.
With his new Dark Eco abilities, he was able to swarm through enemies like ants. Unlike Grand Theft Auto, you couldn't steal cars, but you could steal flying cars. Now, Jak being a fugitive on the run, he wasn't the only tough person with a bad attitude in town.
Maybe this guy's a mute, like you used to be.
You get to meet a bunch of new characters that help you for better or worse, making deals to get around the city, discovering a bigger truth than you expected to hear, and executing revenge on those who wronged you. But this perfect time loop compelling story didn't stop there. Whether you were racing through Haven City, jumping in a giant robot, or breaking Tony Hawk's hoverboard record, this game kept you entertained from start to finish from every angle, making a perfect sequel to an already great game.
What'd she say?
You know.
Now, Jak 3 is actually the first one I played. My mom got it for me. We rented it at Blockbuster. I played the whole game. I beat it. I didn't even tell her that I beat it, and then she asked if it'd be a good Christmas present. I was like, yeah. So she got all 3 of them, and then afterwards, I told her that I had beat the game. Jak may have saved the city, but where one battle ends, another one begins. Metalheads were swarming in, attacking the city. And who gets blamed for this? The city's new hero, Jak. As a result, they banish him to the wasteland, where our next adventure begins. Looks like we found him, boys. Don't be trying to disappear on me, Jak. I don't know what other games I'd play without you. All right, let's get him out of here.
I smell a storm coming.
What are you talking about? You smell a storm coming. We can see the storm coming. Come on, Deimos.
I love water. Oh yes. It's so good. Desert bed.
Deimos, ruler of the hidden city Spargus, saves Jak from certain death. In return, Jak must prove to the city that his life was actually worth saving by showing his strength in this Mad Max arena and completing all jobs for the benefit of the city. In doing so, you finally land your first set of wheels the franchise has ever seen.
What a runt!
This game does a fantastic job of switching up the gameplay, throwing in that twisted metal motor mayhem feel, and a massive open world full of exploration. Alongside Jak's dark eco powers, he unlocks his ability to harness light eco. This story proves for a bigger purpose and a
deeper meaning than its predecessors, with a conclusion that's out of this world.
Not only that, but it amplifies from the previous title's gameplays with bigger weapons and more abilities, leaving a gameplay experience that'll never be forgotten.
There's just one thing left to say. I am your father.
What?
I'm your father!
Right, yeah.
Listen to your feelings.
You're not my father.
No, seriously, your mother or not?
Now, Jak X was freaking amazing. This game capitalized on the vehicle combat that was in Jak 3 and ran with it.
So there we were, wheel to wheel, with the nastiest racing cars I've ever seen. Move the sucker!
Now, before I get into the gameplay on this one, I want to talk about the story, because it honestly surprised me that they put this much work into the story with a game that I originally just thought was just going to be about racing, which was probably the best reward for every race you won. So you start off at an arranged meeting by Crew's daughter, which looks absolutely nothing like Crew, by the way, and without spoiling too much, you take a toast and then find out that Crew spiked the drink with the slow-killing poison. He then tells the group that he has an antidote, but they can only get it by winning this racing tournament that he's obsessed with. Needless to say, nobody's happy about this information. Now, this story develops with twists and turns, and they did a fabulous job on it. That being said, I don't want to give it away, so I'll just get on to the gameplay.
Let's race.
Now, you gotta think, back in these times, we were just playing split screen, so Naughty Dog finally brought us a game, not only Jak game that we could play with our friends, but made it online so we could play with people around the world. This was an adrenaline junkie's absolute dream, whether you're racing or doing a death match. This game loaded you up with fast wheels to keep the octane pumping and an obnoxious load of weapons to blow your enemies to smithereens, which honestly, this kept me going for hours even after I played the story, because this didn't just take a game that was already created and slap Jak on the title. It was a full new Jak game that defined itself.
Behind every great hero, there is always a wisecracking, obnoxious nincompoop.
Daxter came out on the PSP, and I absolutely love that game. That was probably the best game I got on my PSP. Now, this game wasn't made by Naughty Dog. It was made by a different company for the PSP, which made this the first title that wasn't on the PS2, which finally gave Daxter the opportunity to quit being the sidekick and be the main character for a title. At the time, the only portable consoles that we had was the ones like the Game Boy, where it was just 2D. So Daxter getting this opportunity to have his own 3D title was not only big for the Jak series, but also a huge deal for Sony. The game takes place in that 2-year gap where Jak was locked up, which gives Daxter the opportunity to tell his side of the story. But what's more rewarding is how they feed you more lore from previous titles. Now, Daxter's left to fend for himself. Aside from forgetting about Jak, he meets an old stubby man that has a bug extermination shop in need of help. Daxter, in need of surviving, agrees to help out. Now, you are playing as Daxter, you're not playing as Jak, so you don't have all those eco powers or all those weapons, but don't let that stop you from playing this great game. It is still a fun game. It's a platformer loaded with puzzles. Your weapons consist of an electric bug zapper and a poison spray gun that you can use to hover. There's surprisingly also vehicle use in this game, and Daxter gets his own scooter that he can travel around the city in. They even did a great job on the boss fights. You have to fight each of them tactically using your weapons, but depending on the boss, you attack them in a different way, so not every boss is the same. Something else that was really entertaining is they created these mini games for Daxter that were actually dreams that he was having, but they're all based off of big movies at the time. Now, the mini games are simple. You really just press the buttons that are on the screen, but it was truly just incredibly entertaining to see Daxter dressed up as all these characters. Now, Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier, I actually didn't find out till like a few years ago. Welcome to the last and the most controversial game in the Jak and Daxter franchise. A game that I just recently beat because I didn't even know of its existence, which is honestly due to the fact that the PS3 came out in 2006 and this game didn't come out till 2009. By this time, no one was even looking at the PS2 anymore. But this really all has to do with the fact that Naughty Dog started the game, had too much to do because they were also working on Uncharted, and then had to handed over to High Impact to just try to push the game out. With that information, I think everybody's wrong about this game. If you think this is the best game, you are out of your mind. If you think this game is terrible, then you don't see the potential that I see. I can see where they were trying to go with the story and the gameplay, but they were limited by the PSP hardware and enough time to fully execute the game. The game starts you off with just Jak, Kira, and Daxter. Where everybody else is from the series, I don't know, I guess back home drinking coffee, which is perfect timing because the world is falling apart, running out of eco. While they're on their romantic getaway, they got bombarded by sky pirates, which I can say I love this pirate theme idea because I'm personally a huge fan of Treasure Planet, so this works for me. You meet their leader Phoenix, who means to steal all the eco that you have on your ship, starting him off as a bad guy in the story, but then they kind of abruptly turn him into a good guy, which only frustrates me because I didn't feel like there was enough time for build-up. This is also where you see Jak trying to use his dark eco powers, but he can't because of the situation that's going on with the planet, and Daxter, being the fantastic third wheel that he is, blows holes in the ship.
What happened? Those crazy pirates must have shot us. Yeah, that's what happened.
You end up crashing down on the planet, which is called the Brink, the edge of the world, which Kira, being the mechanic that she is, fixes the ship for you anyways. What gives you the chance to knock out a tutorial and learn how to play the game. And you meet a civilization that are protectors of the sacred eco. Then you discover about the eco core, which is essentially the core of the planet, basically the life force of all eco, becoming the main plot of the story. Now, the overall story is good. I don't have any complaints about the overall plot, but the only thing that messes things up is they do have twists and turns, and they all just feel so abrupt. There's no build up, and the story does end off kind of on a cliffhanger, leaving an opening for another game. Now, as far as the gameplay goes, I am really thankful that they were able to make this as big as they did, being that it was on the PSP. They still kept that platformer aspect. The combat's still good, it's just not as smooth because of the PSP hardware, I'm assuming. And you get 4 weapons like you had in Jak 2, but it's a little bit of a letdown when you play Jak 3 with the huge arsenal you used to have. As for the powers, I think they did a really good job with the powers. It felt like they were trying to go back to the original Jak when you had the different eco color powers. And what sets it different from previous games is how you can use your powers to progress through the platforms of the game and not just use them in combat. Now, the only problem I have with this is, so Jak can't use his dark powers, but he can gather dark eco and then give it to Kira to turn it into more powers. Which, the only thing that doesn't make sense about that to me is the fact that when you played Jak 2, you would gather dark eco to go dark Jak, but now you can't and you just use it as currency. And then to make it even more confusing, they give Daxter the ability to turn into Dark Daxter now, which, I mean, it's fun little mini games. It's not like a huge part of the game, but Daxter can go Dark Daxter, but Jak can't go Dark Jak. Well, where the game focuses more is on the aircraft combat, which keeps this game like a semi-open world. When comparing that to Jak X, focusing straight on combat racing, it's a nice feel to have a full open world game that you can play, but also be able to shoot and fly through the world, which they even give you more planes you can use, and you can customize your planes and build them stronger. So I think as far as this part of the game, I think they really did a great job with that.
Ah, yes, I almost forgot. I'm bringing that cool precursor game system Tim built for me, and the racing game Jak X.
Alright, so I get it. Naughty Dog's doing bigger, newer games. They're making more money off of them. I mean, and all their other games were great. They had Crash Bandicoot. I mean, obviously, I love the Jak and Daxter games. They made the Uncharted games that sold well. They made the Last of Us games that sold well. But Jak and Daxter deserves a remake. Ratchet and Clank, and I know Naughty Dog didn't make that game, but Ratchet and Clank gotta be on the PS5. Why doesn't Jak and Daxter get to move on? Jak and Daxter has a huge fan base, and we all miss the game, and if Naughty Dog wants to move on and keep making great games, they can do that. But they need to pass on the Jak and Daxter to somebody else to do it. And I know that they had already got messed up with the last 2 games being made, that they were made by other people, which Daxter was a good game. The last game was a good game, but with everything that was going on, I think, you know, you kind of got a reasonable excuse for that. Regardless, I'm not going to be happy, and I know there's other people that aren't going to be happy until we get another Jak and Daxter game. So if you like the video, then just remember my name. PCtart. PCtart.